Hello, folks. Piney Woods Prepper here. I want to talk a little bit today about the first steps of prepping. Where do you start? In fact, I hear a lot of people say, with things going on in the world, I'm concerned, and with good reason, because frankly, there's a lot of bad news out there. And, I know I need to start prepping, but where do I start? And how much is going to cost me? Well, to that question, I would say, in a lot of ways, probably less than you would expect. Of course, there are many facets of prepping, and some of them don't cost anything, because while part of prepping is storing food and water and was we like to say beans, bullets, and band-aids. Uh, uh, that's a lot of it, but there's just as much devoted to developing skills that we need, such as canning food or preserving food some way, gardening, maybe raising chickens or some other kind of animals. But just a lot of things that are involved in as far as skills go. But so in that respect, some of it doesn't cost anything, because a lot of that you can go to the internet and get information for no cost at all. Prepping is so much more than storing up food and all this stuff. They say a person can go 3 weeks without food, and 3 days without water, and 3 hours without shelter. Now, I don't know if I'm buying the 3 hours without shelter thing, unless you're in a snowstorm. But we all have a place to get out of the weather, so we're not going to dwell on that one. Which brings us to water. Water is essential for our survival. And you might say, well, I can just turn on the faucet and get all the water I need. Really? Well, unfortunately, that's not the case, because a lot of times, your water will get shut off for one reason or other. Maybe it's a leak or whatever, or you'll get a boil water notice that because the water for some reason is contaminated. But we have to pause right here, though, and have a short discussion about our electrical grid. The electrical grid in the United States is antiquated, frankly. It's decades old, and it's pushed to its limits with the increase in population. And don't get me started on the increase in load from charging all these electrical vehicles and things. And just think about the Texas grid. Back in that infamous cold snap we had, the grid went down, and it caused a lot of problems. In fact, there were some deaths resulting from that. So I said all that to say that we, without electricity to run the pumping stations, we're not going to have water, unless maybe we have a water well and have a generator that we can use to run our pump. But how many of us have a water well? And then, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of things involved in it. They say that the requirements are that we should have 1 gallon of water per person per day. And that's for drinking and cooking and bathing and everything we use water for. And that's a minimum. And for, say, a family of 4, I think that comes out to around 28 gallons. So how many of us have room to store that much water, sitting around the house? Of course, bottled water is a great option, but you still have to have a lot of it. And people with water wells, they're golden. Like I said, if they have a generator to run the pump. I guess the ideal situation would be to live near a river or a lake. Of course, how many of us are that fortunate to be able to do that, live in a place like that? Now here on the ranch, we have several ponds, and so we have water available. Hopefully they won't ever dry up. They've come close, but so far we've had enough water to feed the cows and keep the fish alive. But of course you got to have a way to purify that water. Now boiling the water is obviously the best way to purify it, but really you need to filter it first. You got to get the sediment out of it and the floaties and things, little things that are suspended in the water. And so you need a way to filter it first. Of course, they do make purification tablets, and you can get those off of Amazon. That will kill the bacteria in the water. And several companies manufacture these filter systems, and that, according to their advertising, will remove practically every harmful bacteria and virus known to man. Of course, the most well-known, to me at least, company is the Berkey company. And they make a good unit, but they are proud of it, if you get my drift. But I made my own filter using the same type of filters that Berkey and other companies manufacture and sell, installing it in some plastic buckets, two stackable plastic buckets. They're not nearly as pretty as one of those nice shiny stainless Berkey containers, but they work just as well and for a mere fraction of the cost. And finally, that brings us to food. They say store what you eat and eat what you store. And I totally agree. Spam has a long shelf life. And it's an ideal meat to keep in your Pampers prepper's pantry. But some people don't like Spam, so if you don't like Spam, for Pete's sake, don't buy it. There are other options available. And then there's things like freeze-dried food, which like Mountain House, and there's a number of companies that sell freeze-dried food. Of course, it's pretty expensive. Now, we have a little bit of it. just strictly for emergencies, in case we don't have anything else to eat. But freeze-dried food, if it's stored right, and it'll last 20 years or longer. So, that's an option if you can afford it. I think gardening is probably one of the best ways to try to be sustainable. Have your own food, grow your own food. They put the store-bought food that we get. It might taste good, but we don't know. We don't have any idea what's in it. All kinds of chemicals and preservatives and other things that are not good for us. So if we can garden our own food, that's great. And then we can can it or somehow preserve it for later use. In fact, we had some of our canned black-eyed peas for our New Year's Day meal recently, and it was from 2 years ago, and it was great. Well, this is going long, so I'm going to shut it down for now, but I just want to say this. I don't prep out of fear. That's not why I prep. I prep for peace of mind. And I would advise anybody to look at it that way and do the same. But if you enjoyed this video, if you got something useful out of it, I would appreciate it if you'd give us a like, and if you'd share it with others. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that little subscribe button, and then you can get notifications whenever we post another video. So this is Don, the Piney Woods Prepper, saying God bless and be safe out there.